The first video was a little longer. Obviously, it's because we were starting off and kind of reinforcing and repeating things like creating creating your image plane and kind of all that stuff. And it's great to see those repeats. And we had to kind of talk about some conceptual stuff and kind of the idea we're kind of trying to build this edge loop flow, right? Because like I said, you can see there's now an edge loop flow that actually goes through there. We've seen that a little bit on some of our other models, right? We kind of saw it with our brace and our metal railing, how you kind of move and rotate your actual edge loop structures to follow the form, right? The contour. A lot of the stuff we've been building is pretty blocky and boxy, desks and tables, so you don't have to worry about this so much. The character, we're definitely going to see it a lot more, and anything you start to build that's a lot more complicated with lots of intricate curve forms merging into each other, you're going to start to really kind of talk about and see how edge loops should follow the contour of the surface that you're trying to create, right? And so that's kind of a nice simple way to kind of explore that on this without going nuts, right? It's not a car. So at this point what we want to do, and this video will be shorter, and then we'll kind of do some more videos to finish it up on our next class session, right? But the nice thing is this really is mostly just the same stuff, right? So you're really just going to see me repeat myself quite a bit. But in this case, what I do want to do here is I do want to start to bring this part in, right? Because we need this here to allow us to start to kind of build this section kind of connecting to it, right? This button we can kind of build at a later date. It'll be pretty easy. It's just a rectangular extrusion shape. This one's a little different though, isn't it? Because it's a circle, right? And of course we have our Circularized tool. We'll see that kind of a little more on some other modeling, but for us, we really kind of are in a position where, in this case, I think because of the button structure, it'll be a little easier for us to actually make this as a cylinder, right? Because if we actually look at this, and we count the number of buttons we have, we can actually see that we basically have, it looks like looks like overall, I think, I want to say 10, maybe. So we kind of have to take that into consideration a little bit when we're building this. And this might be one of those things too, just because of the 10 button structure. Is it 10 buttons? Yeah. It's going to make it a little bit weird in how we connect up some of these forms. So we do have to be a little bit more careful with that, how we build it, right? So what we'll do is we're going to create a polygon primitive cylinder, right? So we're going to go to the options box for cylinder. There we go. And in this case, we want to create 10 axis divisions, right? Because that's kind of our 10 button structure we want there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So we'll do 10, right? And we also want to make it on the y-axis so it goes up and down, right? And we'll create it. Now in this case, I'm going to turn symmetry off, right? Because in this case, because this is on the world symmetry, it's going to start to behave really weird, right? So I'm going to hit R for scale. I'm going to scale this down a lot. All right, so usually when you're working with something like this object, a cylindrical object, symmetry should be off, right? I'm going to scale this down a lot, right, because it's really that tip-top part. Kind of get it to about the size we're kind of thinking it should be, about there. And of course, W for move. We can bring this up because it's going to kind of be up about there and kind of a little further in the back. There we go. Now in this case, it does kind of raise a little bit, so I'll probably hit R for scale again, scale it down a little bit more to get it thinner, right? Now in this case, we don't really need the bottom at all, because what we really need is we need this to actually have border edges on it, right? So remember, this is an object mode, right? But if I hold down right mouse button and I go to face selection, I can select these bottom faces. Now remember, one of the quick and easy ways to do that is drag select, right? We've talked about this a couple times before. It is right here, it's a button, you can just turn it on, leave it on. But remember, tab, right? The tab key right above caps lock. If you hold down tab, drag select is on as long as you hold down tab. And then I can just hold down tab and then hold down left mouse button, just move my cursor. And that just is this quick drag select. And won't grab anything on the back. It's because drag select has camera-based selection on. Technically it's off for pick marquee, but you can turn it on, right? So if you want pick marquee to do that as well, you can do that also. So we'll hit delete. There we go. And that just gives us a nice opening on the bottom here. Now this is going to be combined with everything else, so we'll hit 3 for smooth preview. And I'll probably do a quick multi-cut just to get the top part a little sharper, right? So hold down Control and put an edge loop in there. There we go. Hit 1 just to see that they're not right on top of each other, right? See how those, I put that edge loop in there and it's not right on top of this one. That can do weird stuff also, right? So Bevel sometimes won't work right, or multi-cut if edge loops are right on top of each other in low res. So just kind of be careful of that, all right? But that does give us that nice little bit of sharpness, and actually I almost feel it's a little too sharp. So remember, I can hold down right mouse button, edge, double left click to select an edge loop, W for move, and you see as I move it down, it kind of softens that shape a little bit, right? So remember, you can still get nice kind of sharp kind of bevel effects with Smooth Preview. So now we've got kind of our cool little cylinder in there, and technically Circularized could give us something like that as well, but in this case, because I had a very specific number of polygons I wanted, cylinder worked pretty well. Also, I really want to get you guys more practice with bridging and bridging border edges. Now, at this point though, you'll notice if I hold down right mouse button and go to object mode, these are separate objects, right? So we cannot bridge or merge vertices from separate objects. So what we have to do is, left click on one, shift, right? Remember, shift adds to selections, left click on another, shift left click on another, and now two objects are selected. And remember, we have our combine tool, right? Right here, combine. And that'll make these one object, right? Now, since they're not bridged at all or merged yet, you can actually still separate those. So believe it or not, you can actually separate those, right? But in this case, we don't really want to do that quite yet. So for us, we're going to kind of keep that kind of the way it we don't need to use that, right? We've already combined them, but technically since it's not bridged together, we can separate them. And now we can start to bridge these together. Now, one of the problems we're going to kind of have with this, though, is you'll notice that these don't quite match up. Now, here's the thing, though. When we really, really think about this, right? This in itself doesn't really need to have kind of all of that edge loop structure there, right? We really just need kind of this for the buttons, right? So if we wanted to create another cylinder, right? So if we really wanted to create another cylinder that's got maybe 12, because that would work better for these, we could always, of course, do that. But one of the things we could always do as well is kind of extrude these out, and then we could kind of do some extraction, separation. Hold on. Alrighty. Sorry about that. I had to stop a cat from doing bad stuff without yelling at him while I'm recording the video. Back to kind of there, so I've kind of excused the pause a little bit, but cats be cats. So what we want to do now is we really want to kind of extrude this border edge out, and then kind of separate these out. But the reason we're building this is gets us more practice with combine. Also, it'll make it so that these button structures really line up well. In fact, we are going to use a little bit of Circularized to fix it. So it's just kind of a neat little way to kind of go through this pretty quickly and easily. So I'm going to double left click, of course, on this border edge loop. And then we can, of course, extrude. I'll hit R for scale to scale it out a little bit. And you see how this kind of gives us that little kind of extra connecting part. But these buttons are separate, so we really wanted those to be separate anyways. It's just that building it this way, everything's going to line up, right? At this point, though, we really want to separate this button structure off so that we can kind of fix this to work better with the rest of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down right mouse button for face, right? And we're going to hold down tab, right, for our drag select, so I can kind of just quickly select those. Now remember, and I've pointed this out a couple times, it was actually on our quick keys quiz also, grow, right? We have a grow and shrink selection. Shift period, right, and shift comma will actually grow and shrink your selections, right? So in this case, I only had to select the tops, and then I could kind of expand and contract those selections. Now remember, we saw this with our door. We're going to see a little more on some later projects too, but remember, we can go to Edit Mesh, and we can duplicate. We've seen that a couple times, particularly for our drawers, and even our brace, right, for our lamp. Remember, right below that is Extract. So if duplicate is kind of like copy, and it just copies whatever selected polygons you have and makes them their own object, while leaving the original the way it is, Extract is like cut, right? Where it'll take those polygons and make them their own object, but it'll actually leave a hole there. So Edit, and we did this, remember that's how we separated our door for our room. Edit, Mesh, Extract. And there we go. In this case, it always goes to low res, and you'll see kind of white and green because that indicates multiple objects being selected. So I can hit 3 to put it back into Smooth Preview. I can hit Q for my regular selection tool. And you'll notice that these are now separate objects, right? So this button structure is kind of its own thing now, and this is its own thing. Now, Here's where it's going to get a little bit tricky, right? Where we have to do a little bit of minor fixing up, but it's quick and easy, and you see how everything already lines up perfectly. So what I need though is I need this to have 12 instead of 10, right? This has 10 because the button's going to need the 10, right? And I technically could have made 2 cylinders and, you know, kind of maybe adjusted the properties. That would have worked pretty well too, but this will give us a little more practice with our Circularized tool, right? And how we can fix things up like this. So I'm going to go to multi-cut, and I'm going to hold down Control-Shift, right? Remember, Control allows us to put an edge loop in. Control-Shift allows us to put it right in the middle. And I'm going to add 2 extra edge loops kind of on the center here on the front and the back of this. This will give us now 12 polygons, right? So if we actually look around here, we have 12, you know, instead of 10. However, we lose some of that circular shape, right? So if we hold down right mouse button to go to edge mode, remember I just used multi-cut, right? So I'll do kind of one time, right? Multi-cut, Control Shift. So remember, Control lets you put an edge loop in, but Shift snaps it. We want those to be in the middle, because that'll work better with symmetry. But I'm going to hold down right mouse button, edge mode, and I'm going to double click on this edge loop, right? Because it's a border edge loop. And I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, Circularize. Remember when we saw this on our bedposts? There we go. That creates a perfect circle. It does twist it slightly weird though. So what you can do is you can kind of start to twist it until it's back to where it should be. Now, that's a little bit eyeballing it, right? But you'll find that it's getting really close to being in the center when it gets close to 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 6 for twist, and that's actually going to put it right in the middle, right? So remember, Circularize makes that a perfect circle, and then you can just kind of twist that Circularize. So I'm going to double click on this edge loop on the outside here and do the same thing. Edit Mesh, Circularize, and we see that this will be the same thing. We twist, and you see how it gets really close to 6 when we get close to that center. So we'll type in 6. Now remember, if you left click on the word itself and drag, right? Left click drag, that's interactive. But you can also, of course, type in numbers. And you will now see, and I'll hit Q, because remember that's just your quickie for selection tool. You'll now see using Circularize, we actually increased this edge loop structure here, but also kept that perfect circular shape, but everything lines up properly. So you can see that's actually kind of a neat way to take advantage quite quickly and easily of adding 2 extra edge loops, getting that circle shape back by using Circularize, right? And we even saw that our twist function can allow us to do neat stuff. So believe it or not, it's pretty easy to create this cylinder, expand it out, and then just kind of make that little fix as we add these edge loops. But now we've got this ring, which matches the shape of this one, at 12, and the actual main one that's already separated, because we did that Edit Mesh Extract, right, to separate it, can actually be for the button, because those buttons are separate objects, is set up to be 10, right? So now that's going to make it a lot easier for us to kind of work and connect these up, right? So I'm going to turn symmetry back on, World X, and you notice symmetry is working perfect on both sides because, you know, that twist worked great for us. Now, I really could probably use an extra edge loop through here, so I'll just multi-cut, hold down Control for an extra edge loop there. There we go. Probably okay on the back, because we could always just, you know, maybe grab that edge loop, double left click, and kind of, you know, maybe bring it in a little bit more. There we go. And what we can start to do is we can start to bridge these together, right? So I can grab this edge and this edge, right? Because it's got to be same number, so 2 to 2. And then we could bridge. And that's starting to connect those up. Now in this case, I want a couple of divisions here. So remember, if you left click drag on the word, you have interactive control. Now you'll notice we're getting this weird pinching here. That's because bridge doesn't always really work well with symmetry. So I'm going to undo, and I'm going to turn symmetry off, and I'm going to bridge. So symmetry is awesome, and sometimes you have to turn it off, right? And now you see how when we do our divisions, we're not getting that weird pinching and pulling. We were getting that weird pinching there because technically those edge loops right there weren't merged together. So even though they look like they're together, they weren't, and you'll get that weird little pinching there. So we just add a couple divisions, and now you see we have enough to kind of eventually get that button on there, keeps in pretty good shape. And we can do the same thing on the back here. Now in this case, I'm going to turn symmetry back on just because it'll be easy to select, right? Remember, left click to select, shift left click. And I'll bridge again, all divisions, and you see how we're, like, once again, you see that pinch in, right? That's, and you even see if we were to go to kind of click off the object, you'll see there's kind of a seam there. That indicates that those aren't merged together. So when you see that stuff, you need to go in there and either merge vertices together or, you know, kind of bridge with symmetry off. Now in this case, we saw that we could turn symmetry off and bridge, and that worked great. And that's the way I would do it. But what if you're in a position like this where these aren't merged together, right? So I'll turn symmetry off really quickly. See how they're not actually merged together. Well, I'll turn symmetry back on. You can actually merge vertices together, right? So if I hold down right mouse button for vertex, what I can do is I can select both those vertices. And if we go to the Edit Mesh menu, you'll see there's actually merge tools. Now, I don't really use that this much for modeling, right? If you're modeling with fast effective techniques like the ones I've been showing you guys, you're just going to find that you only need to use these merge tools when you probably screwed up, honestly. Those are really more, I have to fix something weird kind of tools than that you're really going to use them on a regular basis. If you're using a lot of extrude and bridge border edge and things like that, you're not really going to, and fill hole, you're really just not going to find that you need this merge a lot, right? But in this instance, it's great to see, and it's great to see in the context of like, hey, when you need to merge some stuff together like this. Now, if you go to the Merge Options box, this gives you a threshold. This will actually allow you, in particular if I say selected multiple, right? So I'm going to select 4 of these, because technically it looks like there's 2, but there's actually 4, right? Those aren't merged together. So there's 2 vertices on top of each other there, and 2 vertices on top of each other there. So in this case, I'm just doing a quick little box select, grab those 4. And I can go to Edit Mesh, Merge Options box, and this threshold is how big kind of each vertex's sphere of influence is going to get. The larger it is, the more it'll grab everything. So if I turn it up large, see how it merges them all 4 of them together in a single vertex, right? Didn't really want that there. So if I go back to Merge Options box and we kind of keep it at the default of like 0.01, that means that only vertices that are almost on top of each other will be merged. And you saw it merge those together because that tolerance was so low, that threshold was so low, that only these 2 vertices fell within it, so it just merged those 2. And those 2 just got merged together. So merge is right here, the options box, right? Merge to center is unique because you don't have a merge tolerance, but what it will do is it'll automatically just merge whatever you have selected to the center of the selection. And so that can be useful too. So you actually have the ability to merge vertices, guys, and that's your merge tools. And in this case, it can kind of be neat here where you have to kind of do a little bit of a fix, right? So kind of a neat thing, and that's why I kind of intentionally did that one differently on the back. Used bridge with symmetry on so that we could fix that. And that allows us to see the merge tools. So in this case, I'm going to hold down right mouse button for edge. And I can, of course, double click this, and we can start to bring it out because you'll see this back shape is pretty rounded back there. So we just do some double clicks. And you'll see one of the great things about Smooth Preview is it's pretty easy to get a nice rounded shape without having to add or have a million edge loops, right? So now you can kind of start to see how this is all starting to actually fit together through extruding and bridging. Now in this case, we kind of have more edge loops here, so we kind of are probably going to need a few more here. In this case, those will be pretty wide, but that could work too. So let's just do a little more and then we'll stop. So I'm going to grab just that edge, and we can bridge. And we'll give it divisions of 3 to match that one, right? So remember, you can left-click drag. Divisions 2, actually, because it'll give us 3 edge loops. Remember, if you left-click drag on the word, it's interactive. But you can also type in a number, right? And then, of course, I can grab that edge and you can free move it out a little bit, grab that edge, free move it out, kind of based on the view, right? That'll kind of let us get that little kind of nice rounded shape there that we're looking for. If we need to, we can always do a little bit of view rotate from the top, just to kind of make little adjustments there. And then what we want to do is we want to bridge these together. In this case, I'm just going to double click to select the whole edge loop. And then I'm going to hold down Control to deselect these guys, right? So remember, if you double left click, it'll select the whole border edge loop. But in this case, you can't bridge all these guys together as one, right? Now, I could show you the connect tool, and we'll actually show you a little bit later on in the next videos we'll do later in the week. But for here, I'm just going to remind you guys about the bridge tool. In this instance, can do this for us quite well. So in this case, we want these 3 and these 3, not these ones. But it was just pretty easy to double click to select the whole border edge. So I'm going to hold down Control to deselect that edge and deselect that one. And now you see we have 3 to 3. And there's separation, right? You can't bridge stuff that touches, right? They have to be kind of separate selection areas. These 3 are their own separate selection area. These 3, they don't touch. And we can hit bridge, and because there was only a single edge there, it does a great job of bridging and sewing those edges up. If we had more divisions, you see how it kind of does that thing where it's not merged properly. So keep that in mind. And then I can grab this edge and we can just kind of bring that out a little bit to kind of round that shape off a little bit more. And you see how we're getting some nice, good curvature there for this? And of course we can keep shaping and adjusting as we go along. See how the low res is a little blocky. If I want, I can go to vertex mode, grab these vertices, maybe bring them back out a little bit just to kind of round that off. There we go. You see how even our low res isn't looking too bad, but we can see that the smooth preview is going to really make it look really pretty when we smooth it later on. All right, I think that's a great place to stop. But the nice thing is that really gives you a great starting point to start to block in a lot of the primary forms for this, right? And you can kind of see how we're starting to try to build in kind of the edge loop flow to follow these. I'm going to put those back up just a little bit more to round that off too. So you can kind of really see how we can really use this to create some creative and interesting forms in a pretty fast and easy way. All right, I think that'll be a great place to stop.